When I divorced 5 years ago, I was a mess. The direct cause was my ex-husband's affair. But it wasn't just that. He was a typical emotional abuser. There were signs of it even before we got married. For instance, he was saying, "You should only believe what I say." I interpreted it favorably during our dating period as leadership and decisiveness, even though it was just emotional abuse. He was also careless with money, sometimes saying, sorry, I'm broke, and I'd end up paying for his meals. "Forgot my wallet, so you pay," he would say, making me pay for his shopping frequently. Still, I was thrilled when he said, "Thanks. I'm really lucky to be with a great woman like you," despite he was just flattering me. In hindsight, his great woman meant a convenient woman who would do anything he said. Love is blind, as they say. I didn't realize it, though my family probably noticed something off about him. My family was strongly against our marriage. But I pushed through and married him anyway. Even after realizing my mistake shortly after the wedding, I found it hard to say I wanted a divorce. After marriage, we couldn't afford to live by ourselves, so we lived with his parents, who were just like him. Irresponsible with money and selfish. His mother, my mother-in-law, said, "One person is enough for household chores. I did it all before, so now it's your turn," pushing all the housework onto me. His father was even more unreasonable. Looking at the dinner I had prepared, he would suddenly say, "Hey. I wanted barbecue for dinner," even though he had never mentioned it. In fact, he had requested fish, so I prepared it accordingly. "Be quiet." I changed my mind. "As a wife, you should pick up on that," he would retort, leaving the dinner I made and taking my mother-in-law and husband out to eat. If I listed every incident, there would be no end, but the terrifying thing about emotional abuse is that it takes time for the victim to realize they are being abused. By the time you realize it, you may be in a very bad mental state. Had it not been for my husband's affair, I might still be trapped in that house. Just before the divorce, I had become like a puppet, silently complying with every unreasonable demand. His affair was discovered through his easy mistake, leaving a hotel loyalty card in his pocket. When I confronted him, he shifted the blame to me, saying, "It's not a big deal to cheat. It's your fault for not dressing up or being fashionable." My in-laws joined in, saying, "That's right. It's your fault for not being attractive. You should be ashamed for blaming our son when you're the one who got cheated on," they scolded me. That was the last straw. I reached out to my parents, crying, "I need help. I want a divorce," and they immediately came to get me. Shocked at my emaciated, changed appearance, they fiercely confronted my in-laws and husband. "You've worked our precious daughter to the bone. What do you think she is to you? We're taking Alice back. After what she's been through, we have every right to take this further." My mother's angry words made my father-in-law panic and say, "Please, no lawsuit. That sounds terrible." "Fine, I'll agree to the divorce." My mother-in-law and husband reluctantly agreed, probably worried about a lawsuit. They didn't say anything. I received $10,000 from my father-in-law as a settlement and alimony, and my husband and I divorced. My 2-year marriage came to an end. My parents complained that the divorce settlement was too cheap and insulting, but I was just happy to be rid of that family. 5 years have passed since then. It took a long time for my battered heart and body to recover. Waking up from nightmares, panicking from unpleasant flashbacks. I couldn't have recovered so quickly without my parents' support. Moreover, I somehow ended up owning my own shop, a new start in life. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I never thought I could open a shop. "What are you talking about?" "It's all your talent," my mom replied, but it was thanks to my parents. Right after I returned home. Worried about my emaciated state, my parents bought various baked goods like cakes and cookies from different bakeries. I've always loved sweets since I was a kid. I went to culinary school and even have a cooking license. Before I met my ex-husband, I had dreams of owning my own shop. If you hadn't bought those baked goods that time, I wouldn't have thought of it. One of the treats my father brought home was a cereal bar. A cereal bar is also known as a granola bar. It's made by compressing cereals like oatmeal with nuts like walnuts and almonds and dried fruits. They seem to be popular these days. They're delicious, but a bit hard to eat, my mom noted when we ate them together. That single comment from her changed my fate. Then, I'll make some that are easier to eat. I always felt like a burden, so it was a small way to show my gratitude. The bite-sized cereal bars I made then were a big hit with my parents. I made them with just the right hardness, and they looked and tasted great with plenty of dried fruits and nuts. They were indeed pretty, and I was confident that they would sell. Why don't you post them on social media or something? Social media is an online communication service. Anyone can easily post photos and send messages with ease. Aren't you doing something on it, Alice? So, I posted a photo on the social media account I had registered long ago. And it got a huge response. Where are you selling these? They're so pretty. Bite-sized and easy to eat with one hand. Many positive comments poured in. I was so happy that I cried while reading each one. After the emotional abuse from my in-laws and husband, I was made to believe I was worthless, and though my parents recognized me, I thought it was just because they were family. Somewhere deep down, I believed I was truly worthless. But I was wrong. Even strangers acknowledged what I created. It was my in-laws and husband who were odd. Worrying about such people was a waste of time. I was able to completely let go of them. With my parents' encouragement, I decided to focus on the bite-sized cereal bars and open a candy shop. I made sure everything was photogenic, sparkling, pretty, and something stylish women would want, actively sharing information online. It was a big hit. Since the initial photo was well received, I got interviews from newspapers and magazines, and articles were posted online. And surprisingly, I also got a new boyfriend. He's a lawyer. I visited a lawyer, the son of one of my father's acquaintances, for the shop's contract and opening procedures, and that's how our relationship started. He fell in love with me at first sight, seeing how hard I was working. I thought I was done with love, but he was a nice young man, completely different from my ex-husband. My parents also approved, saying, "We can trust Alice with this young man." Just when I thought I was reclaiming my life and starting anew, I received an unexpected email from my ex-husband saying, "I'll come to pick you up on Saturday." I replied, "I have no intention of meeting you again," and blocked his contact, but I showed the email to my parents and boyfriend. I had no idea why my ex-husband would contact me after all this time. My boyfriend said, "He probably won't come, but just in case, I'll stay with you." Both my parents and boyfriend decided to be with me on Saturday. On Saturday. Not only my ex-husband but also his parents showed up at my house, even though I said I wouldn't meet him. They tried to enter the house without permission, so I blocked them from coming in past the entryway. I asked, "What do you want?" Then my ex-husband said, "Alice, you must have calmed down by now. I forgive you, so come back to me." What? What are you talking about? I was truly baffled. My boyfriend and parents were equally perplexed. Yet, my ex-mother-in-law added to her son's outrageous statement, "Wouldn't it be better for your reputation to go back to him instead of being a divorcee? Our son is willing to marry you again." Furthermore, my ex-father-in-law said, "Alice, our son is apologizing so much. Stop being stubborn. His grandmother needs care, and we should discuss the future." I laughed, "No way. I'm engaged now. I have no intention of going back." And who's apologizing? Does what he just said count as an apology? Also, caregiving is the responsibility of the actual children, isn't it? My ex-husband seemed to only register the fact that I was engaged. Engaged? What do you mean? You cheated on me, he yelled. I instinctively flinched, but my boyfriend stepped in to protect me. Who is this guy? He's my fiancé. Nice to meet you. I've been listening to your novel way of apologizing. It sounds more like you want her back as a housemaid. My boyfriend remarked sarcastically, causing me and my parents to chuckle. What? You're getting cocky just because I'm being humble. My ex-husband got angry, probably because it hit a nerve. I used to be scared and comply with him in the past. But not anymore. I firmly said, "Who's being unreasonable here? I won't be controlled by you anymore." My father then said, "You should understand now. Our daughter has no intention of ever dealing with you again. We've completely cut ties. Now leave. Despite being told by my father to leave, my ex-husband and his parents were reluctant to move. Just as I thought we were getting nowhere, I noticed the neighbors had started to gather. They were drawn to the argument happening at our front door. They must have come out to see what was going on. I decided to use this to my advantage. I see the neighbors are gathering. If you cause any more trouble, I'll call the police. With so many witnesses, it's clear who's in the wrong. With that, they had no choice but to leave. I successfully repelled them. It's insane that he wanted to marry me again in the first place. Later, I found out why they showed up after 5 years. They didn't know that my boyfriend worked at the law firm where my ex-husband went to consult about bankruptcy. It wasn't that my boyfriend broke any confidentiality. My ex-husband happened to run into me when I was delivering lunch and blurted out, "Why are you here? It's your fault I have to file for bankruptcy." I then remembered that neither my ex-husband nor my former father-in-law had respectable jobs, and despite being into gambling, they lived lavishly. They had squandered their grandfather's inheritance and grandmother's pension. The inheritance was gone, and with the grandmother needing care and moving into a nursing home, her pension would be used to pay for the facility. Unlike before, they no longer had disposable income, but couldn't lower their standard of living. They quickly fell into debt trying to cover it with gambling. Apparently, they saw my success in the news online and thought to take advantage of me by showing up. I heard through the grapevine that despite being in the middle of bankruptcy proceedings, my ex-husband couldn't stop gambling, and his bankruptcy was not approved. He's still being chased by debt collectors and is on the run. What goes around comes around. As for me, I feel truly relieved, having finally put the past behind me with my own words. My business is thriving. My boyfriend and I are getting married soon. This time, I'm sure it's going to be the best life ever.